Marc Raimondi for ESPN back with you today with special guest UFC welterweight contender Belal Muhammad. And I say contender. Some people would say number one contender. Some people would say, in line for the next title shot. But that is not what the UFC is saying at this point. I want to ask you about all that stuff, Belal. There's definitely a lot to cover with you today. But first thing, we're coming off, of course, big UFC 286 from London, really big welterweight title fight. It's your division. Leon Edwards beat Kamaru Usman by majority decision. Really, really good fight, close fight. Just what were your general thoughts on that fight? Were you surprised that Edwards won? Just general thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, before the fight, I was looking at it and thinking about it, and I did think that Usman came back a little bit too early after being knocked out like that. It was 6, 7 months, and I knew there was going to be a hurdle he'd have to jump over, and I knew mentally it would just be different for him. And after watching the fight, I could just tell that he was kind of like gun shy earlier on, and he didn't have that same confidence that he usually does and what he's known for. And you know, he wasn't letting it all loose. And game plan wise, I saw him come out and he came out southpaw. And I always looked at him whenever he was southpaw, his defense was never that good. And I could understand why he came out southpaw to stop the high kick from Leon. But then Leon just adjusted it and was going straight to the low kick the whole time and was hitting with the body kick a lot. And I think he was doing that to make Usman think that he was going to set up a high kick later on, but he barely threw any high kicks. So I think Leon just did a good job of just like picking and picking apart. But do I think that, man, Leon made leaps and bounds and great and got that much better? Or did Usman get worse? I think Usman really didn't look that good in the fight. Yeah, Leon made nice adjustments and had good footwork. He didn't gas out like he usually did, but Usman really wasn't committing to the wrestling like he usually does. Even when he hold you on the fence, Leon was just getting away too good. He did a good job of not letting him connect his hands, but I just don't think Usman was there all the way, and it just wasn't the same type of Usman. But hats off to Leon. He just beat the guy that everybody thought was the welterweight GOAT 2 times in a row, and now there's no what ifs because of that. After that second fight, it was what if. But now he just beat him in a decision. So
You and I spoke last week about that fight, Edwards versus Usman, for an experts breakdown article on ESPN.com. And one of the things that you said was going into a rematch, especially against the guy who knocked you out, is a whole different deal. Did you feel like that would played a part in that fight?
yeah, for sure. Like when you're fighting a guy that knocked you out before, you're always thinking about, man, is it going to happen again? Will I get caught with it again? You could tell that Usman was thinking about that high kick so much, and he wasn't letting it loose. Even when he threw punches, he wasn't committing fully to those punches, and I could just tell that he had a couple fake smiles here and there, but it wasn't the confident smile that he usually does, and it played a huge part into it. And I think that maybe his next fight he'll be a lot better. Maybe his next fight he'll know that, hey, I got caught with a head kick in the fifth round. That fight, nothing happened, so my chin is not gone. I didn't drop at that hard knee that landed me. So I think he still has a lot of fight left in him. I just think that it was a bad idea to fight the guy that just knocked you out back to back like that.
So then the fight happens, Edwards wins, he's the champion, the trilogy is over, and now the division is kind of ready to move on. And a lot of people feel that the division moves on with Belal Muhammad as the next title challenger. You're unbeaten in 9 straight. You've beaten a lot of the top guys already in the division. Uh, Make your case. Why are you the guy?
Yeah, it was crazy. I'm the only guy in the division that beat ranked welterweights. I have 2 top 5 wins, 4 top 10 wins in the division, and the only other guys that do that or had those are the champion, former champion, and Usman, and now Leon Edwards has 2 or 3 wins, but like nobody else has that. Nobody else is fighting the toughest guys. I'm not a guy that's Leon sat out 494 days before his title shot. I'm not sitting out. I'm fighting the hungry contenders, the hungry guys. I just fought undefeated Sean Brady. Leon got a title shot off of beating Nate Diaz, who's not even a welterweight. And it's just crazy that I'm not getting that type of love because I did fight down backwards my last fight. I didn't have to take a Sean Brady fight. And I went out there and I finished him, and it just doesn't really make any sense at all. And you're going to give it to a guy like Colby, who's fought for the belt twice already, and he lost both times. And after that, he fought Masvidal, who's ranked number 12 or 13, and he was coming off of 2 losses in a row. So how are you going to let him skip the line after sitting out a whole year, not doing absolutely nothing? And I was calling a fight up even after Sean Brady. I was saying, give me the Colby fight because I wanted to stay active. I knew they were going to do the Usman rematch in March, and I was like, let's do that on that card. And there was talks, and it was like, yeah, you and Colby are going to do Ultimate Fighter. Colby doesn't want to do Ultimate Fighter, so you guys are going to fight in March. I was like, okay. Colby doesn't want to fight in March. You guys are going to fight May 6th. I was like, okay. Now it's Colby's next in line. So why is he getting rewarded when he's the one that ducked me, when he's the one that turned down the fights, when he's the one that said no, when I could have been the one to say that, I could have been the one to do that, and they could come up with these lies saying, oh, we called Colby last second to weigh in, and he's the only one that stepped up to weigh in. I weigh 185 pounds right now. I can make weight in 2 hours. So even with that, still now I'm saying, Leon saying he doesn't want to fight Colby. Leon saying I get to pick and choose. I don't want to choose Colby. So let me and Colby fight. You just had a camp for this title fight. You just weighed in. Why are you going to waste that camp? Let's go right now. Let's fight. All that talking, all that thing. Dana White thinks you're the best fighter in the division. Let's put it to the test. This is the fight game. This isn't the talking game. This isn't the politics game. This is the fight game. I'm willing to go in there and fight you man to man.
Well, you mentioned, of course, Covington coming to London and weighing in for the fight as the backup. Did you kind of already know at that point that they were going to say that Colby was next in line, especially if Edwards won? Because, of course, Usman's already beaten Covington twice. Did you know that if Edwards was the guy that Covington probably would get pushed into that direction?
Well, the fact that he popped out of nowhere, and I was asking to be the backup, and I saw him pop out of nowhere to be the backup, I was like, what the heck? But then I also see that, Pavlovich weighed in as a backup, and he's not getting into the fight. Anthony Smith weighed in as a backup for the light heavyweights, and he didn't get a immediate title fight. So then I was like, well, maybe they're just giving him that. Maybe they respect me enough that you don't deserve a backup role. You deserve a real role of being the real contender, being the real fighter. So I'll let him be the backup role, and I'll fight the real guy next. But then all of a sudden, I was like, obviously, I knew that if Leon won, I was like, well, if Leon won, maybe I may get screwed with Masvidal if Masvidal wins, just because the storyline and whatever. But I wasn't expecting to get screwed with a guy who's been missing for 12 months, 13 months, and a guy that turned down fights with me, turned down fights with Hamza, and he's like getting rewarded for turning down fights.
So, I mean, have they kind of told you why? Like, have they explained, like, hey, this is why we're going in the direction that we're going with Covington as the number one contender?
No, I mean, I'm having a meeting with Dana on Monday, and I'm hopefully that I could get some clearance of what the heck is going on or why it's going on. But like now it's all up to imagination of what I'm thinking in my head. And, you have all those thoughts that are going through and you're like, what the heck? Like, it just didn't make any sense. There's no storyline there. Even with, you're going to do a build up with that fight. It's like, Leon doesn't really talk. Leon doesn't really like to promote himself or fights. Even with the Usman fight in London, it was like he barely did any interviews. So you think that, oh man, the build up to him and Colby's gonna be great. It's gonna be Colby being a moron, dressing stupid, talking stupid, and Leon really not saying a word. So it's like there's not a build up there. I could understand if the build up with him and Masvidal, you could keep on repeat of him getting a 3-piece and a soda, but there's really nothing that's selling me on the point of why Colby deserves it, why Colby deserves to have 3 title fights in his last 5 fights. It really just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I guess, to play devil's advocate, what he has said, what others have said, does the UFC maybe feel like he's a big star and that he's a guy that should be in that position because maybe he sells more pay-per-view buys or he sells more tickets? Is that something that you've talked to anyone about, or how do you feel about that?
I mean, for the most part, it's like with this ESPN deal, they get a certain amount of money from their pay-per-views regardless. They have a set amount. That's why I feel like they don't really care about letting the big stars go. Like you've seen Francis go when they could have, if they really cared about it, the pay-per-view buys that much. Him and John Jones would have been 2 million, 3 million pay-per-view buys without a doubt. But they're like, we know what the ESPN deal is. They made the most money they've ever made, and they're making the most money they ever made this year. And it's like, I'm a guy that's promoting myself. I'm a guy that's pushing myself. So everything I've done is me doing it on my own. let me get a little UFC backup. Let me get a UFC pushing me, and I'll be just as big as him. I'll be better than him because I actually know how to speak. I actually am not a moron that needs the script without talking. Like when this guy talks, he's contradicting himself. He seems even stupider. He's threatening your workers, and it's like he's not a star to me. He's not that Conor McGregor. He has the X factor. He's not that Chael Sonnen with that X factor. He's Colby Covington faking that X factor. He's not there. I don't think he's there. And it's like put a little promotion into me. It'll blow up. How many Muslims are in this world? How many There's a billion Muslims that are in this world right now. And we had the Habib. We saw how big it was with him and him being Russian. But now you got an American Muslim that's going to be fighting for the title, an Arab Muslim that's fighting for the title. That whole community will be backing me up more than any of the hillbilly community that's backing up Colby Covington.
And the reason why I asked you that, Belal, is because like I feel like you've done everything that they tell you to do as far as like, okay, so how do you get a title shot? You win, right? You've done that. How do you get a title shot? You try to build your brand. You've done that. You have your podcast, you're active on social media, and you've done that. So it's like, you've done everything that they tell you to do, and it still feels like you're coming up short for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's like you're following the steps. You're trying to teach the younger generation what to do and how to do it. And it's like, all right, well, winning fights, getting better every single fight. One way. Make sure you're active on social media, interact with the fans, go to events, push the brand. I'm doing that all the time, every single time. You're not going to have any controversy outside of the cage where I'm doing anything stupid or making the company look bad. Boom. I got that too. As a guy that knows how to actually talk and, actually interact with fans. I got that too. But what do I need? UFC. Hey, put me on a poster, push my name, put me in one of your commercials, say something to me. And I think that's the extra edge that'll get me over the top and make the mainstream world know how good I am. And it's just literally having UFC backing you up because I'm in the front lines on my own. I'm on the solo artist right now, and I'm doing every single thing that any fighter could do. And it's like you're looking at these younger fighters, up and coming fighters that are on the bottom, and they're like, all right, I want to follow his footsteps. What is he doing? What is he doing? What is he doing? And it's like, what is it now? It's going to be like these younger guys like, well, I mean, winning is not good enough. So maybe we got to start faking it and saying outlandish, crazy, stupid, racist things. Maybe that'll get us to that popular level that's going to get the UFC to back us up. When it's not that, it shouldn't be that. It's the fight game. It's not the moron game.
You mentioned the comments that Colby Covington made about UFC play-by-play announcer Jon Anik, and it was an interview with MMA Fighting. It was earlier this week, and he said he took umbrage with Jon Anik. Kind of, I mean, Jon Anik lightly advocated for you as a title contender on Twitter, basically, right? It wasn't like any kind of like heavy-handed thing that Jon did, and I guess Colby Covington took. I don't know if he took a disrespect from that, but he said in the interview, basically, he doesn't want Jon Anik to not grow up. He doesn't want Jon Anik's kids to not grow up without their father, which a lot of people thought was a threat. And he talked about the geographic location of where they both live. What were your thoughts on that? I know that Jon Anik is a friend of yours. Jon's brother, Jason, twin brother, is your producer for your podcast. Have you talked to Jon about that? How do you feel about this whole situation?
I mean, it just showed you how much of a joke he is. This is the guy that literally is pressing charges on Masvidal for beating him up outside of the cage. A guy that called the cops on for hitting him with a boomerang. A guy that got beat up in a buffet line by Ali Abdelaziz and called the cops on him. It's like, you're not about that life. You're fake. So you could talk about that. And now you've already dealt with how your words have repercussions. When you talk about a guy's family, Masvidal punched you at a restaurant. But now what do you do now? It's like, I'm tired of, I won't talk trash about fighters. I'll talk trash about a freaking Jon Anik, who's not a fighter. He's on the desk. What does Jon Anik do? Like, you're going to pick on Jon Anik. Now you're going to try to be this bully, and you're going to threaten his livelihood, his life, and you're going to say, I'll make his kids orphans. Like, I know he'll never do that because he's a joke and he's a coward and he's a sissy, but to even say that, like, for me, if I'm Jon Anik, call the cops. Hey, I feel threatened by this clown. Let me put a restraining order on him. And he could literally terrorize his life and make it hard for Colby to do anything. And I'm sure Colby will run at him with his tail between his legs and beg him and apologize and do all of this. But it just shows how much of a joke he is, because you are on trial now because you call the cops and you're pressing charges on your former friend. Like, if I get beat up in the street by a fighter, or I get sucker punched by a fighter, I'm gonna look for that fighter's address. I'm gonna go to his house. I'm gonna handle it like a man, like men do. Colby's not a man. He's a coward.
What you said about like talking trash about a broadcaster. I think that like in MMA, right, like the trash talk about from fighter to fighter, guys that you may or may not fight one day who are in your division or what have you, that's become so commonplace. Like I'm almost like desensitized to it, where it doesn't even register. It's like, okay, it's just trash talk. It's fighting. It's right. It's the fight game. It's different though when you're saying stuff about someone who you're not going to fight. You're not promoting a fight with Jon Anik, right? Is that kind of what like raised people's ire a little bit? Like, you're not building a
Yeah,
fight with the play-by-play guy. Jon's a great play-by-play guy, but I don't think he's going to be getting into the octagon anytime soon. Maybe I'm wrong.
exactly.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
And bro, exactly. And he's like the most neutral guy ever. He's why? Because he said that I deserve the title fight. He's just being honest. That's what it should be. That's what all these analysts should be. When you got guys, if you think you're a true professional, be professional and call it like it is. Colby doesn't deserve this title fight. Don't sit there and look for a way when you watch the post-fight show and you see Rashad Evans. Oh yeah, I think Colby deserves it. He doesn't deserve it. You're a fighter. You've been in the game. You know what it is to be on a streak like I'm on a streak, to fight the contenders like I'm on a contender. You know all the blood, sweat, and tears that go into training, and you're gonna say that, oh, this guy deserves it because he sat out a full year. No, give it to the guys that's been putting in the work, the guys that have grinded and bled and fought to get higher on this ladder like I have. And I feel like you're Kobe, you're calling out the guy that never did it. Call out a guy like Bisping, call out a guy like Cormier, and then you're going to get a response back from them. But he knew he was going to get a response back from Jon, because Jon's not a fighter. But if he calls out one of those other guys, he knows they'll step up. We've seen fighters call out Cormier or Bisping, and they'll clap right back. Justin Gaethje said that Bisping was biased in his commentary, and Bisping's like, "Yo, I went into his DMs like a man, and that's what I did. I asked him, why'd you do that? What's going on? Yada yada yada. Like, that's what the fighters do. Colby's a coward, and it's just like, it's funny that he's trying to play this act, and it's fake, because we already know you're not about that life.
Do you feel like weird personally, because I know that Jon is someone that a lot, I mean, not just you, a lot of people love Jon Anik. I mean, he's very friendly and always amicable with everyone in the sport. And now you're kind of in between this Colby Covington, who is trash talking Jon Anik, and it's kind of because of you.
I mean, for me, it's like, I have three brothers, and I like, when you have a brother, you want to protect them at all costs. And if somebody picks on your brother, you're gonna step in. You're gonna be like, what? And I was always that kid. Now, Jon, I consider him a close brother, and it's like, now I want to go to Miami. I want to be like, I want to make Colby apologize to him, like the same way that Khabib walked up to Artem and slapped him. That's what I'm gonna do to Colby Covington if I see him. I'm gonna make him apologize to Jon Anik, and he will do that, because that's what he is. He's a coward. And if you're in his face, he's not gonna talk this tough talk. He's not gonna have this act, because it's gonna be real now. It's not gonna be social media. It's not gonna be behind the camera where nobody's near me and it's only me in my freaking mom's basement where nobody will see me or touch me, and I can say whatever I want. No, if I'm in front of you, we'll see if you have that same type of energy.
Let's just pivot away from this topic and talk about your future. So Dana White says Colby Covington is next for Leon Edwards, and he also added that Belal Muhammad versus Shavkat Rakhmonov is a fight that the UFC is looking at. Had they offered that to you? What's the status of that?
Yeah, that was another thing where it's like just came out of nowhere, and it like really didn't make any sense for me, because I just literally fought backwards. I went back there and I fought an undefeated prospect, and I've been asking to fight upwards and to fight somebody with a huge name that's going to give me what's going to give me the title fight is that big name. And it just didn't make any sense. I haven't been offered that fight. Like I said, we're having our meal with our meeting with Dana on Monday. So hopefully I get more of a clear idea of what's going to happen next. But Leon's been coming out saying he's not going to fight Colby. Colby doesn't deserve it. We still had the Masvidal Gilbert fight that's coming up. I don't think that nothing's going to be made until that we see what the results of that fight. And it's like Kamaru really didn't take no damage this fight. He just got leg kicked for the most part, body kicked, and I'm sure he's going to want to get back in there. So it's like there's big names out there. There's big things happening, and I'm just hoping that Leon sticks to his guns. He says, I'm not going to fight Colby. And UFC sees all this media and stuff like that. There's been millions of polls that are coming out and the world saying I deserve the title shot. So we'll see. Hopefully we can do some convincing with Dana.
Well, yeah, it's really interesting, and I look forward to seeing how, you know, this all turns out, because it is kind of one of those things that, you know, the sport of MMA, the UFC, it's kind of a constant battle between, you know, what's going to make the most money and who actually, quote unquote, you know, deserves the title shot or deserves those spots because of what they've done in the cage. And I feel like there's that constant back and forth between those two things, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Belal, thank you so much for taking the time out. I know that you've probably been frustrated the last few days, but we appreciate the time, and good luck with everything the rest of the way. And hopefully we see you back in there soon in a really big fight.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.